Now, bro, I had a loving home. I had a loving home.
Wow.
And that was the only thing that stopped me from going through with drowning myself in my bathtub.
The fact that you had a loving home.
The fact that I had a loving home. Half this country doesn't have one.
So I've had a lot of different speakers that I've hired over the years to events, many of them, and they've done a good job. But there is one speaker that we hired that I'm telling you, when you left, everybody remembered you. Everybody was inspired. No one could make an excuse. They loved your sense of humor. They became diehard fans, and that was like 11, 12 years ago.
Awesome.
And so it's good to be with you here, Nick. It's been over a decade, but this is a
Pound it,
blessing.
bro.
Right there.
Love
There you
man.
go.
Love you.
And so the last time we met, it was 07, 08. We had lunch here. I think it was in Woodland Hills. It was in some steakhouse that you like. So we went
Okay.
to the steak.
Yeah. Good.
Yes,
Nice.
yes. And then I said, so Nick, what's next for you? You said, Pat, I want to get married. I think at that time you were 23 or 24. You said, I want to find a wife. I want to have kids. I want to do this. I want to do that. And at that time, he had just spoken in front of 60-some thousand people. And now fast forward today, you've been married 6 years. You have 4 kids, a 5-year-old, I think you said 2.5-year-old, and an 8-week twins.
Yes.
The 2 girls that you got now.
Yes.
And so it seems like your life, you just spoke in front of 800,000 people in Ukraine. A lot of people want to speak in front of an audience of 5,000 or 10,000. 800,000 live people in
Live,
Ukraine.
straight up.
So we
52 million people watching on 26 countries, 20 languages.
Unbelievable.
My palms will sweaty a little bit.
So we got to show that picture if you haven't already, Paul.
Bro, it's an honor to be here.
Brother, are you kidding me? The honors, it's mine.
Love you.
What has happened? Just kind of give us an update on what's been happening with Nick the last decade.
I realized that there was a season of my life where I'm just saying yes to every opportunity that opened. And to want to reach the world, you just do what you can and do what you have to do. To the point where I really had to start saying no and realizing every time you said yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So strategically, and going to a point in my life where I could not sustainably go on a plane as often as I am and really enjoy life. I was just going, and I love what I do. I wouldn't change a thing. But I did hit burnout in 2011. And it was a good thing. And I wanted to slow down and really look at quality instead of quantity, because reaching 8 billion people in the world, which Google says by 2026 will happen. I bought 8billionSouls.com.org. That's the dream.
You got to be kidding.
No, I'm not joking. But you're not going to do it from stage to stage. So you got to be innovative, creative, leveraging technologies, partnerships.
Yep.
And so we've slowed me down physically, but now we're reaching like never before, just masses with positivity, values, and attitudes, and just it's been an incredible journey so far.
That is great. Congrats to all the victories. And I know
Thank you.
Back in the days, you were, what was the number, 320 days a year you were on the road. Today, it's not like that. So if there's any companies out there, if you're looking for somebody, you get Nick. I mean, whether it's a 6-figure check or whatever you'll be paying, your audience will leave so fired up if you get Nick to your event. That's one thing to be keeping in mind. And I vouch for that. This is purely experience from ourselves. But Nick, why don't we get into it? And I think what I liked about you when you walked away is sometimes us human beings, we have so many insecurities, okay? We have so many fears. We have so many things that prevent us from being authentic or prevent us from just being ourselves because we don't believe being ourselves is sufficient enough or good enough, or some of it is mental issues that we keep a secret, some of it is emotional, some of it is scars, some of it is physical. I wish I was taller, I wish I was bigger, I wish I was stronger, I wish I was prettier, I wish I was skinnier, there's always these things, right?
Totally.
And I think the thing I got from you that you helped shape my mindset back in the days is, listen, the sooner you accept you, and I just looked at you, I said, I've never seen somebody who accepted themselves as much as you. You seem like you were so happy. So maybe walk me back and tell me how to thinking. Were you always like that, or was there a difficult time that you had to overcome to get to this point?
100%. Look, before I went to school, I knew I had no arms and legs. I noticed that, but I didn't think it was a big deal. You know, in our European family, 24 first cousins, we just played and we interacted, and Nicky was Nicky, right? But when I went to school, And people would look at me and stare at me and react, and then I would notice that, and then they would tell me things, and I'm like, well, wait a second, why are you judging me? Why are you putting me down? Like, just because I look different? I'll never forget somebody who came up, and I thought he looked a little funny. And I'm like, but why are you picking on me? Like, I could pick on you. And I'm like, it's not about how weird or different or unique we are. It's about who we are on the inside. It's not about the skin. It's the uniqueness and different person I am and what I can offer. And when you judge someone by the cover, and you don't open the book, you miss out on a good friendship. And so I was dealing with bullying, and bullying has always been around. You know, when you have a disease that has one door into the room, only so much of the disease can come into the room. Now with social media, there are 8 times more doors to come in, culturally more acceptable. Media makes that even more acceptable. It's just how it's always been. Bullying is rampant, and in America, I've been able to speak in front of 3 million teenagers in the public school system on live stream.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, Pence put it
Wow.
in Indiana as an example, and we've actually done in front of 290 schools anonymous surveys, and I ask them sensitive questions. I get them to bow their head, close their eyes, put their hands in a fist if they say yes to my questions. And the questions include, have you thought of suicide, attempted suicide because of a broken home, or attempted suicide because of bullying at school?
Wow.
40% of attempted suicide in America is because of bullying.
40% of attempted suicide in America
For
is
teenagers.
because of bullying.
Yep. At
Unbelievable.
school.
Wow.
And 40% because of a broken
And
home.
by the way, you said Pence really quickly. Pence is, Vice President Pence. You were just with the president recently,
I
right?
was.
President Trump, and you were talking about anti-bullying. So this has become a national thing that you're influencing now. So let me ask you: when you talk about suicide, are you feeling like you make that connection faster because there was a point in your life when you were bullying like this, where you were having some strange thoughts in your mind, and you're talking to your parents and maybe not even anybody? Can you talk about like how was that moment?
Look, loneliness is common to all, and I really felt like I was a burden to my parents. I felt like I'd never get a job, never get married. I thought even if I got married, can't even hold my wife's hand. Even if I had kids, I can't even hold them when they're crying. Today, my sons, if they cry, they hold me. Today, I don't need to hold my wife's hand, I hold her heart. You don't need arms and legs for that. And so, because I know that I was on the brink of giving up, and I actually attempted suicide at age 10. Now, bro, I had a loving home.
Wow.
And that was the only thing that stopped me from going through with drowning myself in my bathtub.
The fact that you had a loving home.
The fact that I had a loving home. Half this country doesn't have one. There are 300,000 foster kids looking for a home. There are 100,000 of them looking for adoption. Think of those kids. And we, America, we think of the international missions. We have people in our own backyard who have never experienced love. And so what changed my life was when I was able to think to myself at age 19, when someone said, thank you for sharing what you shared. No one's ever told me that they love me. No one's ever told me that I'm beautiful the way that I am. That's when I knew that I was born to be a speaker, because if I wasn't told that, I wouldn't be here. So sometimes you have to save a life before you save a soul. And for me, being a kid at age 8, depressed, lonely, feeling helpless and
Anybody
hopeless.
knew that or no?
When? Which one?
At 8, like did people know you were going through this? Or on the outside you're happy, on the inside
I didn't tell my parents that I attempted suicide till age 21.
Oh my gosh! So from
11
10 you held it
years
back.
later, I held it back. I never told anybody.
So everything is good on the outside. Everybody's happy. No one knows you're holding it inside.
So I had a depression between ages 8 and 12, and attempted suicide right in the middle. And then the first turning point, which was awesome. I don't know about you. I have an assumption you like soccer.
Yes.
I love soccer. I can't wait for the World Cup. I hurt my little foot playing soccer to the point that I couldn't walk. In bed for 3 weeks, looking at the ceiling and thinking, man, I will never be angry about having no arms and legs. I am thankful for my foot. And my parents always said, do your best, and he does the rest. And so with that faith, love, and encouragement, I pushed through. 15 years old, I felt like I found the truth of my value and my purpose. And I realized that beautiful things can come from your broken pieces when you give your broken pieces a chance. And when you don't get a miracle, you can still be one for someone else.
Oh my God. Like those words, we think we have excuses and stuff, and we complain about things, and here you come and you completely take everything away. Why don't we go back?
Sure.
As a parent? I have a 6-year-old, I have a 4-year-old, and I have a 22-month-old.
Congrats.
Can't wait for you to see them when you come to Dallas.
Can't wait.
So as a parent, when you were going through these moments, loving family of faith, so when you're going through those moments, what was the conversation that your mom and dad were having with you? Meaning, were they actually addressing the issue, or were they actually taking the approach of, you're normal like everybody else, it's okay, you don't need to worry about it? What approach did your loving parents take with you that was effective?
First of all, they said, don't worry about what anyone else says. You're beautiful and we love you always.
Wow. And
you're special. And I'm like, but I don't want to be special. Well, don't worry, there's a greater purpose for your life. We don't know what that is yet. And I'm like, okay. And I would hold it back. There was a time when, just before the attempted suicide, that I actually told my brother, I'm going to commit suicide. And he was only 8 at the time. And so I was 10, he was 8, and I said, I'm gonna end my life after university, because I just couldn't see life after university, and maybe I could go to education because I was at school. And so he said, that's it, I'm gonna tell Dad. And my dad comes in, who's sadly not here with us anymore. He went home to heaven last year. But I'll never forget that, thank you. He came in and he was putting his fingers through my hair and saying, son, what's this I hear about you wanting to give up? And I explained, I said, Dad, I don't want to burden you. I don't want to be here if I can't help myself. And he said, don't worry. I said, who's going to look after me when you and Mom are gone? I don't want to burden Aaron at age 10. And he said, don't worry. It's going to be okay. God has a plan and we love you. Don't think of that. Just keep going. And so they did address it, but I hid it from them very well. So it was more like, don't worry about it, keep going. You know what he said to me? He said, Nick, you weren't given arms and legs, but you have a brain. So use your brain. Start a company, start a financial planning company, be a stockbroker, be an accountant, get employees, and those employees can be your hands and feet. You know how old I was when he told me that?
How old?
6.
Oh my God.
And when I wanted something from the store, they said, no, make money and buy it yourself. Your brother makes money by taking out the trash, figure it out. So I vacuumed the floor, made $2 a week, and it taught me Thanksgiving. It taught me how to save. It taught me a decision filtering process. It taught me dignity. I had dignity. I could do something and I could be on the same level as my brother. And the coolest story, I know I want to share this for all the parents watching, the wisdom that my parents had is unbelievable. One day I was trying to get something off the bookshelf. I couldn't reach it, crying, Ma, help me. She says, no, figure it out. Get it yourself. I'm thinking, man, you're mean.
Wow.
And I'm like, please. And I said, no, try.
Wow.
Try.
How old were you at this time?
I was 6.
Wow.
6 or 7. And I thought, man, that I'm looking around and I see a footstool, like an ottoman, at the couch where you put your feet up. I drag it with my teeth, push it with my shoulders in front of the bookshelf. I jump on the ottoman, use my head and my shoulders along the bookshelf column to get upright and then grab it with my teeth. And a light bulb went off. I don't know what's impossible until I figure out what is possible.
Isn't that amazing?
So the parenting of that, it's unbelievable.
Let me ask you, have you ever done a program on parenting, like things on parenting? Is there a book on parenting or something like that to experience what your parents did?
Not yet. I personally feel unqualified. My dad did his book about parenting.
Okay.
I didn't do a book on parenting because I don't feel qualified yet with only a 5-year-old. But my dad did a beautiful book. I'm on the front cover on a skateboard called Raising the Perfectly Imperfect Child. And all the principles that he did as a parent, for me, is applicable for any parent of any child.
And he talks about it in that book.
He shared his
I
whole
want to read
story.
that book. I'm curious to read that book.
It's incredible. He just finished it before he got his cancer diagnosis in September 2015.
And he passed away last year.
Passed away May 2017.
Wow. Let's get a picture and put that cover up there as well.
Yeah.
That is just,
Yeah.
I want to know what he's thinking to be able to, because sometimes you as a parent, you're feeling bad. Am I being a bad parent? So the struggle is also internally. Did your mom feel like, what a jerk you're being to your son and saying this. Why don't you go pick it up and do this, you know?
They came back from the same cloth. They were immigrants, very poor immigrants.
In Australia.
From former Yugoslavia to Australia. So my dad had 3 jobs. He voluntarily started a church and counseled people on his own time. And then my mum was a full-time nurse. They went into real estate. They made some money on land that then enabled them to buy their house that we had with heated flooring for me in a very cold city in Melbourne, Australia. So then I could walk on the floor, otherwise it's too cold. So they sacrificed so much, but the amazing thing about my father and my mother was when they were home and they played with us, they were there mentally and emotionally. From swimming, soccer, playground, beach, we always knew that when Dad was home and he had time for us, he was there. And we focused on that time more than the time that he was not
Incredible.
there.
So, Nick, someone looks at you and says, okay, you have no arms, no legs. What activities have you done? You know, no, seriously, I'm talking about like, you know,
just thinking
I've seen it.
Where do I start?
Tell me, you know, seriously, because
have you done skydiving, bro?
I have not.
Oh my gosh!
You've done skydiving.
Okay, but I have to say, I did it before I had kids. I would never do it again. Never. I think it's insane to jump out of a plane now. But when you don't have children, you're like, let's do it. So my first time was with my wife jumping out of a plane. I think we were dating at the time. I don't think we were fiancés at the time. And it was her second jump. She's an adrenaline thrill seeker.
She had the experience.
So we did. I got on the floor and I'm going to do this every single year. But changed my mind after that. So skydiving, scuba diving. I do golfing. Just putting, that's the most important part of golf.
That's right.
So I love all that. I love soccer, but I do like recreation a lot, just being outdoors or being at home. And so I was able to drive a car 2 years ago, which is really, really cool. There's a Van Nuys-based company that does those sorts of controls. Mm-hmm. I was on a normal road with lots of cars, 40 miles an hour.
You were driving?
I was driving all by myself. It was spectacular.
Wow.
It was a dream come true since I was 12 or 13 years old. I just didn't feel like the risk was worth the return. Then I thought, well, I love boating. I'm gonna get then a boat and I'm gonna drive a boat. Because if you make a mistake on the water, it's not that bad.
You're forgiven, yeah.
By the time I got a boat, then I found out we ended up not just with 2 sons and we got to double down. We got 2 girls. I'm like, you can't take all of them on the boat. That's nuts. And so we got rid of the boat, and now the dream is, you know, like one of those utility vehicles, like ATVs, quads kind of thing, but the one where you actually have bucket seats, and there's 2 seats in it or 4 seats in it, and you go off terrain. I'm gonna drive one of those. So we're modifying one of those now, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
So you're just testing everything. You're just trying to kind of get a flavor for it.
That's it. And you can't do everything, and that's not where my joy is. It's not in doing everything. It's finding out as your life seasons come and go, how do you most effectively always make sure to never let the good and excellent things distract you from the most important things. And the most important thing for me is to be there at home with my family, and then number 2, reach the world. So how do we then bring in the passions and the fun, all excitement together, where we can all do something and I don't need assistance from other people? So that's my sweet spot.
That's interesting, and it was interesting you saying earlier while we were talking, you said, Pat, I'm now, scheduled, I'm not doing 320, I'm doing 5 business.
84 days on the road instead of 320.
Now,
right
84
now.
to 320.
And it'll be 70 next year.
Wow. So
It's
you're
possible.
trying to get it lower and lower.
Wait, 70 is going to be our sweet spot.
Some people are still going to say 84 is a long time. It's still 25% a year that you're going to be gone. But so it's not like you are not, working your, butt off going on the road. You're still really driving the things that you're doing. But you're figuring out the balance now that you got the kids to be able to spend time there as well.
Right.
That's
coming from 320, 80 is good and 70 is sweet.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? No, believe me, I understand being on the road and having kids.
But it's a sacrifice that also my wife partakes in.
That's huge. The big part, partnership.
Huge. But
so talk about that. Why don't you talk about before you were getting married,
Yeah.
okay, and you guys were in court, you know, you're talking to each other.
Yeah.
You know, you said before fiance, you're jumping out of a plane, so obviously you've had some intense conversations. How deep did you go into conversations about, listen, if we decide to do this, here's what we're going to be doing. This is what I want to do. What do you want to do? What were those talks about?
First of all, my parents said, do you realize that he has no arms and legs?
Your parents asked her in front of you.
Without me there, which made me, I was pissed. I was like, how did you corner her? They got me out. And I'm like, what? She said, yeah, I realized. They said, what if your children happen to have no arms and legs? She says, well, even if all 5 of our kids have no arms and legs, at least they have a great example to live by.
She said that.
That's
She said 5, so you got
5.
one more.
I don't know where the one. Maybe foster. She was just
Okay.
rocking our babies half asleep. She said, "Baby, maybe we should do foster babies." I'm like, "Whoa, you're superwoman." We knew that we were both going to explore a new territory. I didn't exactly know how it would look like at the time. When I was a bachelor, I had a caregiver stay in. They're not going to be there when we get married. We don't know a lot, but their family, her family, embraced me, and that's a big part. That was a big thing for me. Because the only other serious relationship I had,
They did not.
7 years prior, they did not.
Wow.
And I waited for many years, and they never came around. And so it was up to her family or me, and she chose family. And so to have her family then, kind of his family, accept straight up was amazing. And you know, we were getting to know each other. That was while 320 was happening, okay?
So you're only back 40 days
I'm still
out of
at
the year.
320.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm on the road.
Yeah.
She was in Dallas. She lived in Dallas. And I have a nonprofit, Life Without Limbs. And I was learning a lot about the nonprofit. And I didn't want to ask people for money for the nonprofit. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to start 6 businesses with $250,000 cash. I'm going to get 6 people to manage them all. And we're going to make money. And we're going to self-sustain our own nonprofit. That was the goal. I did it while we were dating. Big risk, bro. Big risk. Took it. Revenues were late. Expenses were higher. Some revenues never came. Some projects never were finished. Someone took advantage of me of 50G at the time. Cash flow crisis. Stopped 4 projects. Only finished 2. And I lost all my money.
This is why you're dating.
This is 3 months into our relationship.
Interesting.
12 weeks. I had panic attacks for 30 days straight. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I wasn't myself. I was because I was so on that treadmill. Bro, I was on a plane every 3rd day for 4 years straight. I wanted off the treadmill. Bang, hit a brick wall. Depressed, canceled contracts, couldn't speak, very hard. And then when I finally told my wife what happened, I said, babe, I lost all my money. She said straight up, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'll get a nursing job and support the both of us. And that's when I knew
This is it.
she's the one.
Wow.
Within 3 months. 9 months later, popped the question. I had her feed me the cream puff with the ring inside. And I said, baby, let me kiss your hand. I go, mwah, 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 mwah. And I went down on her ring finger, and she thinks that I'm getting kinky on her. I pull back, and she sees the ring. And we got married 6 months later at Palos Verdes. And
That's Syria.
yeah. And
That's
then,
cool.
Yeah. 4 kids later in 6 years. She's the most incredibly inspiring person ever. She's
How'd you guys
my
meet?
greatest hero. At a speaking engagement in Dallas.
At a speaking engagement in Dallas.
It was a vision casting night for the nonprofit, and she was one of the 20 people there. My dream was to meet Sir Richard Branson. I only said it once on YouTube. Someone saw that and said, I'll make that happen. So I went there and I flew my brother from Australia to come meet them. When I met them, there was a group of people at our table, happened to be my wife's former boss, where we became friends. She came to the vision casting night, who lived in Dallas, who brought my wife along, and it was love at first sight. Couldn't feel my legs.
So this is it. This is like a
That's
real.
the story. There's a book on that one.
No, that's a real cool story right there. So okay, so now let's go from there to the next part. mindset. Let's talk a little bit about mindset.
Sure.
Someone like you are probably at a whole different level mentally and emotionally, where you can have some systems maybe you use in your mind. Some happens like instantly in that moment. I have a choice to be negative, positive, pessimistic, optimistic. How do you process issues that come up in your life? How do you process something like a disappointment, a setback? What do you think about when you're going through that?
Believe it or not, I really love the science of psychology. I'm not a person to say all you need is positivity. I don't think that's all you need. However, it is extremely important to have renewing of your mind to really evaluate how you think, because eventually with repetition, how you see things changes. So, for instance, because I've been faced with so many obstacles, I don't see obstacles as barriers, I see obstacles as opportunities. If I don't know anything about marketing and I'm going into a venture that needs marketing, here I am embarking on an exciting journey about how to discover an opportunity in that education. For me, when my caregivers, right, they have arms and legs, they don't think the way that I do in a sense, well, if you look at something and there's 3 reasons why it's not going to happen, my mind's already thinking of the 4, 5, 6. 6 angles always, not just 3. People stop at 1. Some stronger people stop at 2. Very strong people stop at 3. But the people who are used to barriers in their life go to 4, 5, 6.
That is amazing. So say that one more time. I want you to hear this one more time.
Sure.
So you said normal people stop at 1.
Some people
strong
stop
at 2. So there's a barrier, but then you got
very
stronger.
Strong at 3. But then when you are used to those barriers, you're okay, good, 3. But let's go to 4, 5, 6.
Wow.
Like without even blinking, I'm already there.
That is amazing.
So
you're looking at things that maybe another person's not going to be looking. From the moment we came here, you put all of us to work, by the way, just so you know that. I'm just telling you. Everybody was working when we came in here. I was moving the chair. Paul was moving. We picked you up. You came from there. Can you grab my phone? Here's my gum. Here's this. So one of the strengths is the fact, did you actually learn also to leverage other people and ask for help in ways that wasn't a big deal? Because sometimes big ego people are like, I'm not going to ask for help because I don't need anybody's help. How did you make that adjustment? Because at one point, you said something earlier. You said, I ran a nonprofit, Life Without Limbs. I started 6 companies with $250,000. I lost 50 G's to a guy. I
lost
closed
all
down
the rest of that money.
And then and then you took. So I lost all. So there was a part of it where you said, I'm going to figure out a way to do this without needing to put money into the nonprofit. Was there a shift when you said, listen, I got to learn how to ask for people for help? Was there something I had to go through with that?
Okay, amazing. On a physical sense first, I normally don't share this much, but it's not like I just woke up with this mentality, okay? It is a process, it's a journey, and that's what I tell people. You got to embrace your life. Do not shy away from obstacles, you embrace it because that's what you learn. I didn't go to the restroom at school from 8 to 5 for all of my elementary school years.
Wow.
Because I was too shy to do a number 2, right? I was too shy. If I had to go, I would keep it in and I would pretend that I'm sick and I need to go home just to go to the toilet. So it's not that I was wired differently than anybody else, but bit by bit,
to learn it.
You realize you have to learn it.
Yeah.
Asking people for help. So 60 days after my crash, someone that I never met, that never heard me speak face to face, knew about my nonprofit, had no idea I was on the ground crying like a baby for 30 days, don't know how to get off the treadmill, gave a check of 120 G to Life Without Limbs. And that's when he's like, hey, come on, I got this, trust me. And so it's not just about what to do, but the timing of things and the knowledge and the team of things. But it's that learning process, and people saw that in me. They didn't know always how to approach me on that. But bit by bit, my cousins,
21 of them.
24 of them.
24
of them. They're like, Nick, when you need help, do it. And the reason why I'm so operational and I can see 6 steps ahead is because there were too many times where people in my home went to bed before I asked one more time, can I have a glass of water? there was that uncomfortability of having to wake someone up to go to the toilet during the night. And so I wanted to I had to think ahead because I hated putting people out. And so I have to think ahead and arranging it, because if I don't think of it, I shouldn't expect someone else to do it.
Got it.
And there is a way to ask people, firm but fair, please, thank you, always. And you can be humble but powerful.
You can be humble but powerful. And that, my friend, is what you are. You're humble but powerful. Okay, so here's another question that I think you can give us some perspective on. I mean, I'm sure you've seen with the experience where somebody sees you and they're kind of uncomfortable talking to you, that reaction that they get, right?
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that I'd be curious to ask you about is, how big of a role has levity played in your life, where, humor, your self-deprecation, the jokes, I mean, the stuff you were saying from stage, we're standing there saying, what is this guy? You were not holding back with anything. So did humor play a big role in you making others around you feel comfortable to? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, first, did you see the YouTube video of me dressed up as a pilot and greeting the passengers as they get on the plane? It's from DFW, bro, from Dallas, Texas. It was awesome.
I have not seen
it. It was awesome. It was awesome.
What was the reaction people had?
Some people believe me and they're freaking out. I said, we got some new technology. So thankful you could be with us. It was awesome. I got the microphone. When everyone was on board, I got the mic. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for it. They're like, what? All the heads are looking over like this.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Look, my parents said, Nick, people don't know how to talk to you. They think you're different, but they'll see you're not different if you just talk to them. So just talk to them and they'll talk back. And so I started that. And then they're like, well, maybe say something, be yourself. You're a funny guy. Then I started that, and one day it started coming, a couple one-liners like, hey, it's cold today, can't feel my hands, especially adults. I would always find myself around adults than kids more. I don't know how that happened. I maybe protecting my own self. And stuff like that, kids come up and say, what happened? I say cigarettes, and the adults would laugh, and so that is something that I actually went overboard with at the beginning of my speaking career, because I was so still intensely curious and worried about what my audience thought of me the first 3 minutes of my speech.
Interesting.
So I can't even look back at those 2002 speeches, because I went so overboard and trying to be funny. And yes, they thought it was funny, and yes, but I could see it was my insecurity and trying to make sure that we would break the ice straight up.
Interesting.
So humor is always there, and in fact, in the art and mastering of communication, humor has to be there to grab the heart.
So you are known as somebody that's probably one of the best speakers around the world. I mean, you've spoken in front of, I think, what was the number, 680 million people have either heard you on a live broadcast, a live event, or heard a message from you. That's a pretty big number. That was
through Life Without Limbs. That's on a faith-based message, 1.2 billion.
Total. 1.2 billion.
Yeah.
So that means 20% of the world has seen you speak. Why don't you think a little bigger?
8 billion. 8 billion souls. That's why we got it.
And what is it? 8billionSouls.org? What's the deal?
We bought them all.
You bought them all.
And we ain't selling it to anybody, all right? I don't care what you pay. But it is unbelievably humbling when we are in front of 18 presidents, 10 governments, and they change the law to integrate special needs children into society for the first time. The first president that I met was in Liberia, Madame Sirleaf. She was Nobel Prize recipient a couple years ago. There are still 15% of the world that still kill children when they're born if they have a disability, right there on the spot. The mother ostracized from community because of tribal beliefs.
15%.
That's very conservative. That's very conservative. Wow. And so Liberian mindset was trying to be challenged in 2008. It was a speech in front of the Christians and the Muslims, and it's all about, hey, we need to understand that every person has value. And so when you have those incredible experiences, it's not about how many we reach, it's all about being a good steward of this opportunity that had nothing to do as much with my intellect and how good I am or how smart I am. It's about me believing that there's a greater purpose for each individual, and I just want to fulfill mine.
And you're definitely, I mean, at the age of 35, to have done what you've done, it's incredible. The man upstairs really using you in major ways. So earlier you talked about, anti-bullying, and you said 40% of teenagers have this thought and, suicide. So what do you think about as the solution for us to address bullying? Like if there was a system for you to say, I think these are the 3, 4, 5 things we need to think about, what would those things be?
Look, it's not just a systematic thing, it's actually telling the truth in a way that people actually come up with their own conclusion. We are not looking at a generation where they're ready to receive your conclusion. Give them a persuasive speech that persuades them to conclude the same thing. So when
them being who? Them being students, them being teachers?
Students.
Got it.
And so when I'm in front of a school, I did this in 290 schools, the anonymous survey, everyone's head bowed, their eyes are closed, their hands are in the air. I ask them, so no one sees their hands, yeses, they simply put their hand in a fist. And so the questions are, have you thought of suicide, attempted suicide because of bullying at school, and attempted suicide because of broken home. 40% of attempted suicide in teenage lives is because of bullying. And when a speaker does that anonymous survey at a school, in a school of 1,000 people, and there are 30 people that just told me they already attempted suicide because of bullying at my school, have I gossiped? Have I spread gossip? Am I a part of that? And I tell him, if I were you and a speaker told me that 30 people have already tried to commit suicide and another 30 because of broken home, do you know who's being sexually abused at home? Do you know who's attempted suicide because of your bullying? Is it really worth it? Because if I were you and I was told that, then I would from this day on, and I suggest the conclusion, never ever be part of bullying ever again. And schools change.
And you're doing a program right now in Ukraine, right? You're doing a program right now where the president's made it mandatory for 2 million kids, which is 5% or 10% of the population, to be listening to you while you're speaking to them. You're doing courses, you're talking about this, and they're bringing you in.
Mandatory
right,
high school speech. This is education department. They're asking me for series of videos for parents, teachers, students. It is a humbling position to be in.
That is amazing to be able to do that. Okay, so final thoughts here before we wrap up. Nick, what keeps you going? You think about the bigger picture. What keeps you going? You know, you've touched 1.2 billion people. You've written books. You've heard the magical words from your parents. I love you. I'm proud of you. You got a wife. You got kids. You have kids hugging you when you told that story. You've jumped out of a plane. You've done scuba. You've done all these things. So what's now next for Nick? What is the bigger picture now with you?
We really want to go out into places. We're looking forward to going to Iran and speaking to CEOs there and whatever unique opportunities come. Iran, 700 CEOs. We're really looking forward to that this August 2017. We want to impact the world. But then there are so many people, Pat, that say, Nick, we want more. We want to know, how do you change your mindset? How do you get a balanced life? How do you overcome obstacles? How do you redefine impossible in your mind? And so we've actually now started at Attitude is Altitude, a personal online course, one-on-one, 25-minute modules, 6 of them, 3 hours of content, where it feels like I'm right in front of you.
That's phenomenal.
And we talk about it, we unpackage
Phenomenal.
it. I go through
and
everything.
It's you.
Me, just me, step by step, worksheets and workbooks.
Like a master's program
like
type
a
of deal?
master's program. And then we hope to do in the future products, people want to become speakers. I want to equip people to speak. People who are wanting to do nonprofits, I'm going to tell them what I wish someone told me 10 years ago. We want to fast track people to their full purpose-filled destiny, faster than otherwise.
Now, is this course already available or it's coming soon? Like, is there a place I can go to see it?
Yeah, you can go to attitudesaltitude.com. It's available there now.
Phenomenal. That's amazing to be able to spend that. You said 3 hours, 6 25-minute courses to learn from you with handouts, similar to Master's Program.
I think it's better than Masterclass, to tell you the truth. Of course it's better, right? But I'm going to say it is first class, and I would never do something unless I truly believed it's going to change lives. You know who I am.
No doubt about it. No, and listen, I endorse it. I'm telling you, if any of my peers, CEOs, entrepreneurs call and they want a speaker, you go out there, the mindset of that entire company organization is going to be shifted. And you've made a major impact, obviously, internationally. You've spoken at how many? 65 different countries?
68.
68 different countries. You only got 120 of them left to wrap up, you know what I'm saying? But 68 different countries. And as much as that impacts on that end, I think corporate side, I don't know how much work you've done with corporate. If you haven't or you'd like to request somebody, I would highly recommend them considering you and contacting you. We'll put the information below. By the way, how about the course you're talking about? We'll put the link of that below as well.
Thank you.
We'll put the contact information on who to get in contact with if they want to talk to you about booking you for an event. And you and I talked about a special project we'll be working on together. We'll announce that here soon to you as well. It's going to be big. It's going to be exciting that we'll be talking about. But more than anything else, brother, this has been a blast to come back and spend some time with you and introduce you to all the Valuetainers out there who watch this content for inspiration.
It's been a true joy. It's been exciting and an honor to reconnect with you. And for everyone out there, whoever you are, whether you're a CEO or a single mother, just trying to keep things together, I just want you to know we love you and never give up, dream big, and keep on going.